We are rolling.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. Today we have Eric Trundy and Tom Simmons on with us. We're going to talk about some upcoming things and whatever else we decide to talk about.
Hell yeah, let's figure it out.
That is a beautiful tease. You know what I'm saying? That's really gripping. We're going to talk about, we don't know yet, some things.
knows?
Maybe we do.
Whatever we want to talk about, yeah.
Maybe we got to change the policy. We're going to start recording before we record.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Just hit record, yeah. You guys just had a great conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we got nothing to talk about.
I think y'all just
Yeah.
need to know that in my life, one of my biggest pet peeves is being late, but I'm categorically late to this podcast.
You're fucking busy, man.
Yeah.
It has literally been like an argument in my family about being late. I don't
Jesse.
even care generally about being late to everywhere else except my son plays baseball, and it's like you need to be there.
Yep.
If they say 4:30, that means 4 o'clock or 4:15.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you pull into the parking lot at 4:30.
Yep.
And that time thing is crazy my whole life.
I agree.
Say what you just said again because I missed it.
It's all right. It's all right. You got here late?
Yeah, I've been here. I'm always late.
You were physically here, but mentally.
Yeah, mentally,
you know,
I'm 5 minutes behind all the time.
I just want to let everybody know, in full disclosure, I don't know if I'm going to eat on the podcast, but when my food gets here, I will eat.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I got to eat.
You can be late. You can eat. You own the fucking building.
I know.
You
I
what
just
mean?
hadn't
I
eaten
gotta
since.
fix that.
I had some biltong a minute ago, but I haven't eaten since yesterday. So I'm like, and I'm fat. You know, you can't just go without it. You can, but
Yeah, you need fuel.
you gotta have some fuel.
You got to
It
stop
seems
for
like
gas.
you would have extra to burn.
I got plenty extra to burn, but it's the habit, and it's the addiction to food is what you're fighting.
Okay.
You're a big dude,
Yeah.
right? Like one of my sons is a big dude, and he has to intake more than the rest.
Think
of us.
about it like, do you smoke cigarettes?
No.
All right. Or any other thing you might not be able to talk about. But cigarettes is a good one because I think nicotine in cigarettes is vastly more addictive than, say, marijuana.
I used to
right?
dip.
Yeah, you go same thing, right? Or a similar thing, right? But it's vastly more addictive, and I liken food cravings. I'm not making an excuse, but it's very, the sugar and the bullshit. Sugar is more addictive than nicotine, right?
Oh, dude, when I cut out sugar, I feel so much better, and then as soon as I get a taste of it, I'm all the way back in,
Yes.
baby.
Yeah.
It's an evolutionary thing.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've evolved to crave calories, so we don't starve to death.
So what he's saying is I just
Sweet.
evolved better than you guys.
Sugary foods and high-fat foods are really tasty.
Glad
to
the
us.
truth is coming out today.
Oh yeah. Are you still?
But those are bad for you. So why would your body as an
Well,
evolution?
it's not bad if you're trying to not starve to death, though.
But
Because you're trying to
which
store,
is
you're
what
trying
your
to
body
store
is
energy.
trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you still doing the carnivore diet thing?
Let me just be straight right here on what our viewership is so large. I'm gonna call it national TV.
That's right.
National YouTube and podcast. But no, man, I was doing great, and then the month of September, I checked out. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
Yeah,
I had
I'm right
one
there.
weekend. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy it. It was actually one meals where it started on like a Friday night.
It's always how it
exactly
goes.
what you were saying about one piece of sugar, and then you're like, bam, I'm back in.
Yeah, and so I ate it, and I was like, you know what? I'm owed this weekend. I don't know why people think that they deserve things because you just, you don't. But I was like, I'm going to take this weekend. And then basically like 5 weeks later, September's a 5-week month, I believe. So 5 weeks later, I'm like, holy shit. And I gained a lot of weight. So I am proud to say I am back on, but I'm doing more. I'm more like keto style. It's mainly carnivore, but I am doing some vegetables and things. So.
I've done.
I do intermittent feasting.
Yes.
We just eat too much.
Yes.
I'm right there with you. I do well with like I was on the keto thing for a while, and then I was sugar free, and then it's vegetarian, and it's like all those things together. I did that for like a year, and it's fucking like want to blow my goddamn brain out.
Yeah.
And then I got stressed a couple weeks ago.
I'm on the lead diet now.
Yeah. All you can eat.
Which we don't
And all you
recommend,
can
by the
eat is
way.
only one. I got stressed, and I was like, well, I was telling Neil this the other day. I've just been drinking soda and eating candy and stuff, and it's like, it's better than what I used to do is just like, fuck it, I'm just going to take a bunch of pills and drink till I don't feel nothing. Now I'm just like, I'm going to eat some Swedish fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all right. I'll get back to
It's
it.
a healthy alternative. What's that guy's name? He's the Stanford professor or whatever that you send me. That he's very, very scientific about his research. What's his name?
About food?
No, about everything. I'm trying to remember his name. He's a Stanford
Frank?
professor. Yeah, it's Frank. It's right now. Now I gotta look.
Frankie
Oh,
Stevens.
Frank.
Dr.
Maybe
Know-it-all?
he's- Yes, definitely a know-it-all. Definitely.
What
Let
is
me-
he? What's his big thing?
His shtick, science-based. He wants to provide education, Ivy League education, for free to the masses. So it has nothing to do with Stanford. I'm probably butchering this, but let me just glance real fast and find it, because now it's gonna bother me. This important shit right here we're talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he has a thing about essentially about endorphins, and let me just do that here. Anyway, this is Andrew Huberman.
Oh yeah.
So who is Andrew Huberman? Why would you
Yeah,
send
tell me
him the
about
link?
Huberman. real
Andrew
quick.
Huberman. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just a brilliant scientist. But he does a lot of research on sleep and stuff like that too.
Is that his main focus?
Man,
I'm not
everything-
really sure
Neuro,
what is.
neuro,
Yeah, he's
neuroscience.
a neuroscientist. That's right. Yeah. So anything involving the brain.
So what you just talked about, what we were just talking about, to me, talks about what's the chemical release when you're high or you're having a good time, or there's good fit.
Dopamine.
Serotonin.
Dopamine.
So here's the thing. So we're all addicted to dopamine,
Yeah, there
right?
is. Yeah.
So we are getting. I like that. Look at the stepping up over here. Look at
Yeah,
this.
neuroscientist.
Goddamn professional in this podcast.
But he'll do a series on different topics. So he'll do like he did a big series on sleep, where he goes really in depth on
Yeah.
the importance of sleep, what it does, what the different sleep cycles do, how much you should sleep, and then he'll also go
Based
into
on age or weight or what? Like
everything,
Yeah.
very in depth. And then
Okay.
he'll also do he's done specials on or series on health, like diet and stuff like that.
He crams more scientific information, more facts, more information into a small window than I've ever seen anybody do.
Yeah,
and doing it in what I consider a digestible manner.
And he's in really good shape too.
Yeah.
He's very healthy, fit,
Yeah.
highly intelligent.
But so he talks about dopamine and how we train ourselves to get a really big dopamine instead of like loving a process and getting a dopamine fix from a process. We get the biggest dopamine fix from the reward.
It was actually Andrew Huberman who said the thing about people reward themselves from the idea
Right.
instead of actually the
You
execution.
guys talked about that a little bit last
what do
week.
you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
So like the way comedians fucking do it, right? Like we have good ideas, like, oh, this idea, let's make it, and then we never make it. And a lot of times it's because we get the dopamine hit just from the idea.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's your whole career.
that is.
It really is. It really is. That's why you love jokes so much. Every time I tell him something, he comes up with some dumb pun. He feels good, and then he shuts up for a while.
Yeah. And then I'm like, then you're on the lead diet. Okay, back to just.
That's funny.
But yeah, so he talks about us retraining ourselves to, one, enjoy the process, complete the process. But he made a good analogy, and I'm not really huge into sports, but this one I think will resonate with everybody. He made the analogy of the football player, the NFL player that's trained his whole life that still celebrates the touchdown. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he's getting a dopamine fix from that celebration, when instead he should celebrate the execution of the process. So you celebrate the fact that you caught the ball and you ran with it, or whatever your execution was, and that should be celebrated every time. But the actual act of scoring a touchdown is just how the world keeps score. Mm-hmm. Really, he's just doing what he was trained to execute to do. So, like, you shouldn't...
It's funny. I used to have a joke that basically said just that. Where
Really?
It was like a really old, way back in the day. Like
Ah.
it was like, because it annoyed me the way Shaq would, after every dunk, would be like, you know,
yeah.
whatever. You know, Morton Hanks duck walking and be like, that's your job. You're supposed to dunk the ball.
Exactly.
You're
Well-
8'10".
You know what?
Right?
Shut the fuck up, Tom.
And then
Because you don't do anything. You know what I mean?
I know.
I love that you complain like that they're celebrating a thing they did. If you did any of those things, we couldn't stop you from fucking.
Of course, that was the
running
joke.
your
I'd be like, I don't do that when I'm like, I was like a pizza delivery guy. I'm like, where's your pizza? And I'm like all over their lawn, like, yeah, look at all those
Deliver that bitch.
pepperonis. Fucking dancing with Leon.
Well, now Shaq owns a Papa John, so
Right. Oh, yeah.
he's probably putting pepperonis and all the time.
That's
both.
hilarious. Actually, don't they have the Shack pizza now?
Shaq-a-roni.
Shaq-a-roni.
It's a
yeah.
Shaq-a-roni. He
That's
so he
hilarious.
stepped in and bought a bunch of Papa Johns a while back, and now he's kind of taking the lead on a lot of it.
I gotta
Wow.
jump. This is all over the fucking place.
Let's
But I gotta
go.
jump. So The Rock, Dwayne
Yeah.
Johnson, right? He released, so I'm gonna butcher some of this, but a while back, maybe 11 months ago, his wife bought a music label, right?
Okay.
Why do you air quote his wife?
Because
It's a business partnership, right? Are you saying
The money was derived from The Rock. His wife bought it with money given from The Rock. So when they say his wife bought it, I think they're very strategic, and it's a female-owned business, which is considered a minority-owned business, but the money came from him. So anyway,
So she bought a record label.
She bought a record label, and my thoughts were proven true today.
Because he dropped that.
He dropped his song, and I fucking love it. But at the same point,
It was
I'm
pretty
laughing.
good.
I'm laughing my ass off because he's helping promote the label.
Of course.
that his wife owns. Which
I love at the end where he's like, one take. He's like, get the fuck out of here,
one take.
Dwayne.
Yeah, one take. And I want to thank to
But
Mana.
he is
I loved it. It was good.
a gifted performer.
Oh,
for sure.
100%, man. He's on it.
While we were talking about
Is
sports,
he bad at anything, that guy?
I'm sure.
Well, he made some political
Nothing he
things here
does.
recently that were a little.
Nothing that we see.
Oh, yeah?
right?
Because you just disagree with them, or because they were the way he did
I
it
don't
was-
like that he got involved in politics. Not that I disagree with him. I just like it's just like come on.
If you were
dude.
in that position, though, like
Right.
if you were in the position of like everybody knows you,
And
there would
cares
be
about your
times where your
opinion.
ego would be like, people care what I think about things. So, and here's what I do think, and I would like to influence that. I don't want. I
That's
don't
what
wanna
it is.
see-
It's influence,
And
right?
so he's like, I want people to listen to what my opinion on this is. I think whatever it is, global warming.
It made
or
me
whatever.
think less of him, not because it was political advice or political opinion or his personal opinion. It made me think less of him because he only. All right, not again. I don't care about what he said. I care that he said it without doing any research. Like, so he said he made a comment. He said, "Hey, I met with Biden and Kamala Harris, and after that meeting, he went on and publicly endorsed them, right? But he never met with Trump. Now, I'm not pro-Trump in this situation. I'm just saying he got asked about meeting, and he's like, well, we were going to meet. We couldn't make it happen. So, like, hey, I heard what they said, and I really like it, but he didn't hear the opposing side.
Let me pose this. Maybe he.
If he did that with his business decisions, he wouldn't be in business. You got to hear, like, if I'm coming, like, let's say I have a board of people, and we do this all the time. I want you to try and poke holes in my idea.
If he meets with Trump and he doesn't appreciate his opinion, agree with it, he now takes his consumer base and chops that pie in half. Right?
He already did.
He did, but he didn't. He didn't outright say, "Hey, I disagree and I don't like it." I think getting around that saves him a little bit, doesn't it?
I think on this topic, I feel like nobody that was running for the office really represented his viewpoints on life and society and what he does.
Yeah, I don't want to pay taxes anymore
And-
based on taxation without representation. I don't feel like there's any chance of what my beliefs are being represented in the government. So I don't want to pay taxes. I don't think it's. I obviously will because that's the law, but
Yeah.
it's not right.
I don't think taxes. And the way that they're done, I don't think they're right either.
But the thing with The Rock, though, I feel like he had and he still has the ability to not play the political game, because party politics is really just a divisive tool that politicians use to distract people and divide people. And I think everybody loves him, so he can reach out to both sides of the aisle, and he could just talk about his viewpoints on certain issues instead of making it political. He could just talk about how he feels about society and how things should work.
yeah.
My thing is that
But this isn't Coke or Pepsi. This is Coke or
yeah, but he is a
piss-filled
corporation.
syphilis in a glass with ice. It's
Yeah.
like Coke. No, we don't have any Coke, but we got this glass of urine that's.
Yeah, but The Rock is a corporation.
Yeah.
But he's also probably heavily influenced by Hollywood and because that's where his money comes from. So
Yeah.
and when you consider that, you have to think, well, he probably cares a lot about what China thinks. He has to be real careful about what he says about
I can't
international
imagine,
politics.
I've been a lot of this for a while now. When I think about celebrity or I think about athletes specifically, I can't imagine what it's like to make those decisions, right?
No.
Like you can make the decision based on your life and where you are,
Yeah.
but to have that amount of money, that amount of fame and reach to make those decisions, there has to be thought into it. And so
I would
Yeah.
love to. If I was an athlete, I don't think I'd put any thought into it.
Yeah.
I would just be like, boom, dunking over people and being like, "Fuck Trump,"
and his dance.
dancing around. I'd say,
But The Rock is a
you
lot of
idiots
things.
need to stop burning fossil fuels. Dunk.
I mean,
This is how I know you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You just went dunk.
I was going to say 3-pointer there.
You
And then
don't.
I was like, never mind, nobody's watching it. I forgot the cameras.
So the other side is going to tell you that, again, this is the point, though. Everything becomes this side or that side instead of just the facts, right? It's all political based, right? It's not about Trump or Biden. There are major billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar organizations that are at play here, and they're battling for control.
Yeah.
And you guys are all, including myself, pawns.
that's it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
Like you say, oh, well, it's fossil fuels. Well, you should look at the pollution and the gas that goes up in the ecosystem from farming.
Yeah,
Which
we're doing everything wrong.
Vegetarians
It's we
are going
wanna
to
live.
tell you. The vegetarians are going to tell you that
You can't
that
eat meat. That's
you-
the thing.
You can't
Yes.
eat meat, but all the farming is causing much more problems in our ozone. But you don't hear about it, right? You hear about cows farting because it's a political point, talking point for AOC, right? So like the problem is the politics is the division, which is the distraction from the real issue. The real issue is doesn't matter which side politically you're on.
What's the motivation?
Yeah,
Right, there's
Christian Murray
motivator.
talked about that. He was like, we end up mostly battling within the same prison.
It's a
So
battle of
we're-
corporations.
So
Right.
we're
100%.
we're making reform within the same thing.
100%.
That's suppressing.
It's a
everybody.
distraction. This is the what was it called in the from Alexander the Great and what they had the Colosseum.
Bread and circuses.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But there's a thing about Alexander the Great. Like, or was it him? Who was the one that championed all the fighting with the gladiators? And I'm trying to remember the name of the person that did that. But those
Caligula?
games,
the Colosseum.
the Colosseum, those games, that's what stopped violence for a period.
Yeah,
They
it's
gave-
bread and circuses.
Oh, you're talking about
Yeah.
Caesar, Augustus
Caesar.
Caesar, who
Yeah.
the Pax Romana.
Yeah. So this
That's
is
back when the Lions won things.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
beat every Christian.
Way to bring it back to sports there.
yeah, there you go. Now we're talking about something he knows.
That's what's happened to me in the last year or so, right?
Juvenile.
Like I was literally getting to a place of like I was just living in gloom by reading climate science and there's following this group about extinction, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
or paying attention to politics every
Yeah.
day and getting in the battle of your guy's fucking evil and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
I've just sort of shut that off and like
Everything got better.
listening to sports.
There's a thing
It's like
about
it's like
Yeah.
Thoreau's Walden.
There's an Amish thing. It's a meme that's going around, which I think is pretty funny. And the guys,
Are Amish allowed to make memes? Is
well,
that-
well, they've turned this interview with this Amish guy into.
It's a live meme.
and
You just have to see an actual Amish person.
you have to go there though, 'cause they can't film it. So
it says, "Why weren't you affected by COVID?" And he said, "I guess because we don't have TVs, right?" And he was, I think, a sincere answer, but and if you find the full episode, you'll see that he actually says that they don't get involved in worldly politics. Like their politics are much different, right? And so the point is that no matter which side you're on, you're being played on some level because you're involved in a chess game between massive corporations.
yeah, I
Right.
mean, look at war. The Middle East, the wars in the Middle East went on for 20 years, and $14 trillion were spent, and $7 trillion went to private companies. So there's obviously incentive in everything, and that's what drives
Yeah.
politics and the economy and all of it.
Just you saying that had me flashing back to 20 years ago when I was saying that's what we were doing, and 89% of America was like, "Fuck you, shut up, you're un-American." Well, it was like, "Hey, George Bush isn't going to rid the world of evil. This is all fucking a farce."
yeah,
And
it's a business.
But we all act like we knew that then when it was almost everybody was
Yeah.
on the bandwagon of let's go get them. Let's turn that place into sand. Fucking
Yeah.
Toby Keith made so much money thanks to 9/11. You know what I mean?
Toby Keith and Don and Cheney
Yes.
made the most
Dick
money.
Cheney,
Dick
Yeah.
Cheney. I almost signed up for the military after 9/11. It fucking
I did
all
too, yeah.
the TV coverage worked like a motherfucker.
I immediately was like, well.
You know why?
We slept. It was because it was like the USS Cole, fucking the United States. Snooze button, fucking the next one. Snooze button. Well, now fucking they got your attention.
Right.
This is what our foreign policy brings.
Yeah.
We promote this and then we get it. We're gonna get it back. It's our turn now.
Yeah. I think
I was surprised that we didn't end up with more of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think for me, it's like I'm really trying to focus on less about politics, staying out of that argument, and trying to really see what's going on. Like,
Do you watch the news?
no.
Do you watch the news? You're a junkie, aren't you?
I used to be, like, for most of COVID, and for most of, to be honest, of the Trump administration, and for whenever it's not my guy in there, I'm really on thing, like, and I notice that, look, they're fucking us all, and they're taking this and that, and then when it's my guy that's in there, which it never is, because my guy gets eliminated in the primaries, like third guy every time, so.
Because they're not buying into the establishment enough. They're not bought into the establishment. The establishment hasn't picked them yet, and that's the problem. Like,
That's the only news I watch is online news, like through Breaking Points. They're really great. They have good sources, or The Hill is good.
I read the worst news.
I read
like Reuters,
news,
and then I read,
but
Reuters some, but it's like Daily Mail. I just go on.
I get my news at open mics.
Yes.
Like I
That's
legit,
funny.
I don't watch the news at all, and then somebody at an open mic will talk about a thing, and then I'm like, oh shit, I guess Iraq's a thing again.
That's funny.
I
Jamie
get-
Lissow
yeah.
used to say that. He goes, I don't. The only thing I really know, my watching the news is watching Tom Simmons do comedy.
I need to ask
do you watch
guys.
Jimmy Dore any?
No, I haven't.
You'd
It's-
enjoy his show.
You'd think I would, because I actually really like Jimmy Dore, and I think
Yeah.
he's really, really funny, and what he's doing is great, and when I see it. But the comedy I think I would like to do, I don't really like to watch that.
Oh,
much.
yeah.
It's-
Yeah,
Makes sense.
we talk about that a
Yeah.
good bit. What were you going to say, Danny?
I was going to say, I was looking up.
But he's great.
Is it James Hodge?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and again, I really like James. I even liked it, and I commented on his. I try to stay away from his stuff sometimes, because sometimes it goes. He's very intelligent, and for most people that's enough. But the problem is sometimes he does the exact same shit I'm talking about, where he takes one thing too far a little bit, kind of plays with.
You mean cheerleads to his side?
Well, no, I don't mean about that. I mean like being selective about the facts he's using or the way that he presents them, and he's smart enough to get away with it to regular people that aren't really paying attention. That just, if you're cheerleading, you're not really trying to dissect what he's saying. This was right on the money, and it was about the comedian being
Dave
censored.
Chappelle?
Dave Chappelle, his post about Chappelle, and so what he was saying is,
Well, he's also got a relationship with Chappelle as well.
yeah, well, and
He is very smart. He's one of those guys when I have phone conversations with, every time I get off, I'm like, that would have been a good podcast. That was very informative.
He's intelligent, and but sometimes you got to be careful that doesn't alone skew the opinion. But what he said made a lot of sense. He's like, if you're looking for me to agree that we should be censoring comedians, you're dead wrong. That's how he ended it, and I agree with that
good,
completely.
yeah.
Because a comedian, like if the censorship goes to the comedy level, right? Like Chappelle should be able to say whatever the hell he wants to say. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to like what he's saying. It's a joke.
I think we got away from being able to disagree with each other a while back. Somewhere
I
along
agree
the
with
line,
that.
right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, being able to have conversations with people you disagree with is
It's healthy.
part of right.
Fun.
And that's what the news does, though. It separates us, it divides us, and then we just spend the whole time we're in the same prison arguing, right? Two different points, and it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
like I'm positive that the four of us disagree politically
on some things.
you know what I mean? On most things, I think good ideas are good ideas, but we all have different opinions, and we can sit here and talk about them, and it makes sense. And when we can't disagree about things, and when the censorship thing comes in, it is an issue.
At the end of the day, we probably all want the same thing.
I agree.
Most of us, yeah.
We just
For the most
disagree
part.
about how we get there. I think that's more of what it is.
Yeah.
Because
But that's the importance of the conversation. You're figuring it out.
But I like the fact that, because what he did was he provided context, facts. He fully did it, and then he listed his opinion. But like that's one that I can agree with, and it's not because I'm pro Chappelle. It's because I'm pro comedians being able to say whatever
Freedom
the
of
fuck they
speech.
want. It's freedom of speech.
Yeah.
I've heard some crazy. Chappelle says shit about white people all the time.
But also, if you
I
listen
mean,
to what
literally,
he's
like he
saying,
says it
it's-
about white ladies are the leaders of racism in America. Like they're responsible for more. And what's his name said something similar to that recently too. Like he says shit all the time that he's a fuck. It's funny. It was a joke, right? Like take a joke.
Yeah, it's
I don't go to a comedy special and hear something offensive, and that other people could take offensively and start getting offended. If you do, don't go to comedy specials.
How often does that
Something
happen?
should stick under your craw a little bit. If you're
sure.
pleasing
If that was
everybody
the-
doing comedy, then you suck at it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's-
Sometimes there's some jokes that sometimes will, and I've gotten used to it. I've been desensitized to it some, and it actually now I'm seeing more of the humor in it because I stopped being. I'm gonna use the word offended lightly, But one of the, I'm not gonna say who, because I actually like their comedy and it's growing on me, and I don't want them to take this the wrong way. But they say some things sometimes that were just like out there about phalluses. You know, and
About
things
who? About what?
About dicks.
About dicks. Yeah, yeah. I was trying to be politically correct.
Okay.
A comedian telling a dick joke?
Every joke is a dick joke, by the way.
Well, they were doing different things than I've done with my dick.
Sure, yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of different things that I've done with my dick. And, you know, at first I was a little like, oh, shit, you know, damn it.
That's the importance of conversation.
I agree.
Right? Like you would have immediately, probably the first time you saw that person do their love letter to dicks.
Yeah.
You probably disagreed a good bit, and now that you've heard
Yeah.
it and seen it over and over again, now
Yeah.
you're all right. You can talk about things without agreeing.
He's going to get a slap in the ass at some point. I'm going to say no homo. Like, yeah, it's funny as shit, no homo. And hopefully he doesn't, you know, get offended that I slapped him on the ass. But
I think he'd be more offended by the no homo.
I wanted to.
or yes homo. Yeah, yes homo.
I wanted to. There's something going on in sports. I know you guys aren't sports guys, but I'm interested in it anyways. So there's with the NBA, they're doing the mandate thing for the COVID vaccine. If you don't have the vaccine, you can't play. You have to adhere to certain cities' ordinances. So Kyrie Irving plays for the Nets in New York.
I'm following this, by the way, a little bit. So.
Excellent,
Yeah.
because that's what I want to know about. And so he isn't getting the vaccine, and he's going to lose a lot of money, and he might not play with the team. They've cleared him to practice in their facility because it's a private practice facility. It's not a public gym. But my thinking on this is this: why the fuck do we know whether or not why is your vaccination status so politicized right now? You know what I mean? Isn't there a line that we should be able to draw with these people? What are your thoughts on it?
Let me ask you this. Should I be able to know your medical history, me, and limit your ability to play because you have HIV or cancer or
Yes.
a hepatitis C, right?
Yes.
How? That's your medical information. Your private. I can't
Isn't
have
there
access to
HIPAA
it.
I'm
law?
putting you in danger. That's why Magic Johnson retired. 'cause he
Right, but
didn't-
that was also when we didn't know what AIDS
So
was.
what you just said
That's
is
true,
that
yeah.
we
because
can,
he came back and played the All-Star game and had a great game, and his career was cut short because he had HIV.
Yeah.
And now he's still fucking alive, by the way,
Yeah.
and healthier than everybody in this fucking room.
what
you know what I
you
mean?
just said was
That is a Magic Johnson.
yeah, that's right.
Damn it, Tom.
Yeah.
my God.
There you go. Ta-ting.
Stupid fucking
That
puns.
is Magic
I
Johnson.
would have opened up a cut on my arm and scored 104. Are you kidding me?
That's hilarious.
Damn it, Tom.
But what you just
Are you
basically
telling me
said
Kyrie
is-
Irving won't take a shot? I've never seen him pass the ball. Are you kidding me? This is the one shot he won't take.
That's good. That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
How long have you been sitting on that joke?
About 30 seconds. I'm like, Kobe Bryant would have taken that shot right away. He'd have done it at 3 in
So-
the morning in a gym.
So what you want to do is you want to force testing and full
No.
disclosures of all medical histories.
No,
of
we
all
do
that.
though. You can't play high school sports without your vaccinations. With
You,
regular
not
vaccinations.
with. We don't test for HIV,
So-
for hepatitis C, for all those things.
Oh well.
Maybe that's not the best way
you
to-
shoehorned in actual facts into the thing to trick
Yeah.
the conversation.
Go ahead. What were you saying, Neil?
Go ahead.
Maybe so. There's a few ways to look at this. So
Yeah.
one thing is the NBA is a private company,
Right.
So you know you could have policies as a company that say
Yeah.
you can't smoke if you're an employee, because it drives up healthcare costs or whatever.
Well, these aren't the rules of the
No.
private company so much as they are pressure from the politically
It's political
motivated.
for sure. Yeah,
We have to wear
Cities.
seatbelts.
But I'm just
Those
saying,
were
can-
annoying.
can
That was
they-
against
I don't
my
have to
personal-
wear a seatbelt.
I'm saying can they require?
You're gonna write me a
this?
ticket if I don't wear one, right?
Yes.
But I can go get a waiver for wearing one. It's like having an illegal tent. Like there's a medical exemption.
I don't
get.
think you should be forced to take it. No.
Well, I think
it's a problem for. I'm not for or against the vaccine. I'm not for the government telling me what I have to put in my body.
Now I understand why kids have to be vaccinated to be in school.
Unless
Because of
it's a
certain
fetus.
deadly diseases like the measles and the mumps and all these things. I mean, vaccines have saved billions of lives.
Absolutely.
Most people wouldn't be here today if it weren't for vaccines. But
We wouldn't have peanut
those are
allergies.
vaccines that are well studied and they've been around for a long time. The COVID vaccine is not well studied. I like the science behind it, but it is very political, and I understand why people don't want to trust the government.
That's the issue I have, though, is
It shouldn't be political.
If you
It
take
shouldn't be
politics out of
political.
it, so many more people would have gotten it.
Right.
The
100%.
problem is it became a political talking point.
I honestly believe this too. If Trump would have got reelected and the same vaccine was rolled out, it would be the exact opposite.
I don't know that it would have been so much Trump. It's the fact that it became, if you're on the left, you believe in the vaccine for the most
what I'm
part, and if
saying
you're on
it-
the right, you don't. I think
I'm
it
saying
became a
it would have
political.
been. I'm saying it politically, it would have been the opposite.
Well, I feel like
Because
also
Explain,
in the
go
lead
ahead.
up to the election, it is because in the lead up to the election,
Well, it would have
people
been
are like, "I'm
handled
not
differently.
taking that. Trump rushed that through for his own." So I'm
Nah,
just telling you, the liberal
Trump wouldn't have said it's mandatory. See, it's delivery, right? You can take it in the ass, but there's a difference if you think you're being forced to take it in the ass, right? You can voluntarily choose to do so. That's a whole different delivery.
Well, I think that regardless of the politics, it should have always been a thing where they treat us like adults, because politicians and citizens are the
like
same
humans.
thing.
Humans.
We're all
yeah.
humans. We're all people. We can have a conversation.
Yeah.
If you approach people from a position of, hey, we have something that works.
Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, but yeah,
What doesn't work?
the vaccine.
It does work. 100% efficiency of
work.
keeping you from dying. So it doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. It prevents you from dying.
Well, there are people who've died from complications.
It's
from
99.999%.
It's
a
99.99
chance that you will not die.
that
from
you will
COVID.
not die from COVID.
Yes.
I agree.
So the vaccine does work as far as preventing you from dying.
Without the vaccine, you still have 99.99% a chance of
No,
survival.
it's probably around 0.5%, which is still a big number when you're talking about 330 million people.
That's right.
Mostly it's elderly people. My thing is if you're over 65, you should probably get it. If you're concerned about it. The issues I have with the vaccine would be based on the studies, it works. It's going to keep you out of the hospital 100%. If you're our age, you're 100% not going to die from COVID. You're not likely to be hospitalized.
I get to disagree with Neil for once.
But
I mean, this is interesting.
my issue is not with the. My issue is I don't have an issue with the vaccine itself or the science behind it. I have an issue with what is the incentive behind it, or what
I agree with that.
who's benefiting from it. And
This is
There are deaths from the vaccine, by the way. I just want to point out they are not recorded. See, unlike COVID, if COVID is present in your body, even though it's not the cause of death, if you go on the CDC, the average comorbidity is 5 for COVID, meaning that there are 5 other major reasons you died in addition to COVID, just so you know.
so there's a few things.
But you can have the vaccine and die. They don't credit it as a vaccine death. They say, well, no, it was the comorbidity.
So
It was because you had blood clots.
I hate to go back to seatbelt, but it's the same kind of thing. They're like, if he'd worn a seatbelt, he'd have survived. You're like, well, they didn't tell you that it was.
No.
He went
People-
through the windshield
people
and impacted
died-
into a semi truck.
No, people die from wearing seatbelts.
That's
true.
There's a few. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, we need to look at the facts without the politics.
It
That's
is
the
much.
problem.
There are. I mean, statistically, you're much more likely to survive an accident with a seatbelt.
All right.
But so
helmet laws.
So with the
Helmet laws.
vaccine, with the vaccine itself, as far as the efficacy of the vaccine is very effective. So if you're vaccinated, you're not going to die from COVID. I mean, it's less than 0.1% chance.
It's
you'll
less
die from-
likely than you'll die from COVID.
It's almost impossible. It's
Yeah.
almost 100% that you're not going to die from
Yeah.
COVID. But that's not the problem. The problem is there are likely other treatments, like the ivermectin became a big political thing. But it's likely a viable treatment to COVID. But if they had accepted that information, then the pharmaceutical companies couldn't have got the vaccine expedited, and they would lose billions of dollars because it's not free. Our tax money is paying for it. It's being paid for, and the pharmaceutical companies making billions of dollars from the vaccines.
Tax free.
Well, from taxes, they're getting
Tax-free
paid by tax
and
money
tax dollars.
and tax free. Yeah, exactly. So
Maybe tax free.
I'm gonna have to wait.
Hopefully they got good accountants.
Also, I look at
So that you said that earlier when you said you don't pay, but you pay an accountant instead to make sure that you don't have to.
Oh no, we pay a lot of money in taxes.
for sure. But anyway,
too
before we
much.
get into that, so with the ivermectin thing, ivermectin got just slammed politically.
Why?
Well, it's likely a viable treatment, and also last weekend I got a news article, and it was there's a new medication that's been developed by Merck
I just saw it.
and it's a antiviral medication that's likely a
treatment.
a good treatment for
Wait for the curveball.
for COVID. Well, Merck is also the same pharmaceutical company that created ivermectin, but ivermectin has been used billions of times by billions of people for
cheap.
decades. It's a generic drug now, so it's very affordable, but there's no money in it because it's generic, so anybody can make it and it can be distributed cheaply. But then if you do that, Merck, the same company, they've spent a lot of money and developed a new drug. If the other one works, they can't use this one. They lose billions of dollars again.
So
it's from my perspective, it's always about money. And anything's heavily politicized, there's some special interest involved.
100%.
And now, as far as the science behind it, I think the vaccine works. I like mRNA science. I think in 10 years they'll be able to create a vaccine like that in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way it was approached is a problem. And
I agree with all those things.
there's always
Even
you always
the
have to
hour,
look
you
at
think?
what the interest.
Probably.
let's take the
Well, yeah, I
let's
think
take the
so.
science of the vaccine off the table. Why?
Good, because I'm really.
I knew you've been quiet for a while, and I got to wait until the open mic to make my mind up. But I've been wondering who stands to benefit from the division that comes.
All the companies.
All the politicians too.
So
yeah.
what one side said is that, and specifically came up with Joe Rogan, right? That he used it, and they're like, oh, he's using horse medicine and this and that, right?
Well, it actually came up with
And
Brett Weinstein.
Brett Weinstein.
Yeah.
But the point is that
Initially,
it became a political talking point, but everybody gets swept on the rug that the same company that launched this new and improved thing is getting ready to make billions and billions and billions of dollars. So, like, you come back to it. And
Also, I think it was Pfizer that was funding the company that was handling all of the misinformation on Facebook about COVID.
yeah. So, like, I guess that's the problem. You're saying, hey, if Trump would have won, it would have been done differently. I think the delivery would have just been different.
Well, I think Tom's point is solid.
I agree with the point.
I think I think the conservatives would have been more on board with getting the shots.
I think whoever
and
is
it would
the
have been
winner,
opposite.
That's possible.
Like, if you-
whoever is the winner is going to dictate the conversation, right? And
But also the
I don't think
pharmacy.
it's that.
you're going to have half of the population on board and half not, and which half is which is dependent on who gets to talk loudest.
Which party do you think's more defiant?
Oh,
Defiant.
Defiant. I'm going to say Republicans, but who do you think's more defiant? Like, if you back a Republican,
let's
typical,
use the definition of defiant, though. You know what I mean?
like which party is more, like, if you put a gun to my head, me, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to react violently back towards you because to me, I'm already dead anyway.
Mhm.
Right? So I'm going to try and go out swinging. I'm going to go out with my boots on, right? Think about the military, think about police, think about people that are, like, if you punch some people, they retreat. You hit a dog, they retreat. Some dogs you hit, they bite you.
Right.
I think of what Biden did was he said he was going to force a bunch of people that are naturally untrusting of the government, and they want less government. They're scared of big government. They're already kind of out there with that. And Biden tried to force them to do something. And I think that's why they got so much. Whereas if it would have just been delivered differently, even from Biden.
it is a delivery
That
issue.
doesn't. Yeah. that
I
doesn't-
think there would have been more. Now, would Trump have done it? I think definitely more. But I think he'd have had more success if it wasn't forced. My whole problem is not the vaccine. It's forcing it. Because I have the choice not to get vaccinated as a child.
That's my question, right? Is if Trump would have came out and been like, hey, we all got to get these, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I don't fucking trust that guy. And then when Biden comes down, it's like, hey, we all got to get it. I don't trust that fucking guy neither. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It really is it is the delivery.
I don't trust neither of them
Well, the
because they're
worst
in
things-
politics now.
Yeah, the worst things that have happened to humans in history have been done by political leaders. So,
And
well, not me personally, but
But it's about it's about
mostly baseball coaches.
it's always
I knew that would get Tom.
and see that's somewhat of an inside joke, but that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, also
I can't even drink my
The
drink now.
pharmaceutical industry is one of the largest contributors to politics on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
Unless
control
you
a
count
lot
the
of the.
churches.
That's fair too.
Yeah.
I
That's
agree.
fair too.
I agree.
An untaxed lobby. It's not fair.
See, here's the funny part is that we may have some differing opinions, but I bet you we agree on more than we disagree about.
of course.
For sure. And being able to have the conversation about it
100%.
is super important. When you can't have the conversation,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what the truth
That's
is.
why
why
they
I-
narrow it down to 5 that we disagree on.
Yeah.
And keep going to
I don't
those over
see. Actually,
and over
actually,
and over.
there were
Back
about
and forth,
5
back and forth.
other ones than Biden that I would have gladly support. Biden has had a racist history, called a racist by Kamala, and she's like, "Oh, that was the."
Yeah.
He's also just a
And he's
textbook
been
politician
in
too.
He's been in it a long time, and I don't think anybody's been in politics for that long is going to solve anything personally. But
Well, he is the system.
They're
Yeah.
not going to solve it until I read a book recently, or made it through about half of it, about
That counts.
yeah, I agree.
changing the way we fund elections, and it won't, and nothing will change until.
Well,
we
you know,
do.
Andrew Yang-
and he had a great idea of doing it through vouchers. Like every single citizen gets a $300 voucher that goes towards the, and the politicians then don't spend 3/4 of their time getting money from corporations and blah blah blah. They go to they have to get all that money from the individuals in order to pay for.
So
the
when you have the voucher, you vote, and that money goes towards the things you voted for.
No, you like
He goes to
the
support those
politicians.
campaigns.
The politicians would have to, basically get your voucher from you, like earn your voucher from.
Well,
you
you know,
for your-
it'd be,
Why can't we all vote on individual topics instead of who we're?
yeah,
who
we
we're
shouldn't
trying
even
to
have
put it-
parties at all.
Why are we having parties? Because really, what we're doing is we're creating a situation
Have
where
you ever been to
one-
a toga party? Come on, parties? No parties.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're always putting ourselves in a
Who
situation.
goes to toga parties, Tom? You fucking.
I was gonna say '80s party, but I was just trying to think of.
Yeah, vote on topics.
Yeah, I mean, like, how about Biden? Maybe the guy. Okay, so let's liken it to a CEO of a company. That's easy for me to do.
Right.
A CEO can't get tied into making decisions without consequence. Like if I change a price, there's a chance that I lose customers because of that. If I lower the price, I've got to look at, let's say I cut them price in half. A 50% reduction in price means I've got to have 200% more clients just to break even. Right? You have to understand the metrics of what you're doing, right? So if I'm the president, it shouldn't be this is Democrat, this is Republican policy. It should be, hey, let's vote on each policy. And if the lion's share of America thinks that this thing is a good idea, it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. It should be that this is a great idea. Is what we need to do.
We shouldn't
Like
have
gun
one
reform?
president either. It's insane.
Which part?
Like gun reform or healthcare?
I don't know. Which part of gun reform do we want to do?
I don't know.
I've got a
there's
gun on
hu-
me right now, and it's never shot anybody.
I thought that when you were saying the boots thing earlier, because I remember you saying there's one on, and I was like, you're not gonna. What do you mean you're gonna punch him back? You're gonna pull
I'm
out
going to
your
shoot
gun.
him most. Well, it depends. I mean, I've gotten in many fights. I've had my gun on me. I didn't draw my gun. Right.
That was your thing, right? If you're pulling your gun,
I'm going to shoot you. Yeah. If I pull my gun, you're getting shot. 100%. If I pull my gun out and we're in a confrontation, you're getting shot. There's no question.
What if you pull it out? I'm like, okay, I'll give.
Now, if I've pulled it out faster than you can react, I've shot you because I feel like I'm threatened. And to say that, I own bars and nightclubs. I own a whole bunch of stuff. I own ATM business. I've been robbed. I've done all those things successfully without killing somebody.
What's
we
the
can make
closest you've ever come to
We can make
pulling
the argument. We can make the argument
When
that
I was younger and inexperienced and scared. Like if you're in a new situation, that's like a new police officer shoot somebody. I'm not saying all the time. It's more common because they're so nervous, they're shaking. Like if there was a fight to break out right here, I'm going to be very calm. It's not an unusual situation for me.
So do you remember that incident? And it was it like
It was fear.
Okay.
It was
And then
fear. I
from
thought-
then on, were you paid attention to that? Where you were like, I need
Yeah,
to.
you need to pay attention. You'll notice mostly when I come in, I've always got my back to a wall, right? Like I'm paying attention. I'm reading your body language, how you're acting, and are you drunk? And that's one thing, right? Are you
Yes.
drunk? And that's or are you a real threat? Like it's a threat analysis, right? I mean, like
But we can make the argument that everyone who owns a gun doesn't go through the same thought process that you do and
Sure.
doesn't have the same level of responsibility, right?
What
Yeah,
stopped
right.
you in that moment?
yeah. I mean, should I be able to go buy a hammer? Because I can go get a hammer and I could do some real work with the crowd. I promise you. I'm a big guy. So are we going to start if one guy goes and gets a hammer, or how about DUIs? People drinking and driving, killing people with their car. There's more people that die from that every day than are shot with a gun. right? Like, I mean, we can really get in, and you see, but then it starts to sound like I'm talking political points. My gun has never shot anybody. I got guns all over the place, and they've never shot anybody. It's the craziest shit because the gun's not the problem; it's the person with the gun. So if we want to talk about who owns guns, I'm cool with that type of regulation.
So you're right. That's what I mean. I think most Americans are, but yet we don't do that.
Well,
we don't we don't do that.
The gun laws we have currently aren't enforced, and we also have to remember that most of the gun crime, violence, is committed by criminals. They don't give a shit about the law. So you can make all the laws to your blue in the face; they don't abide by them anyway.
But they're
like me.
Yes.
I'm highly trained. I've got a concealed carry permit in multiple states. I take and spend time and commit to my craft. You should want me to have a gun. I'm one of the ones that you would want to have a gun because I'm going to stand in front of you when you're in danger and I'm going to help protect you, right? You should want that. We should encourage that. We should put benefits out there for people to be more like that.
What are those benefits?
I don't know. I don't know what that is. I mean, like me, I did it because I want to be able to protect myself and my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what does it take for others? I don't know. Why do cops do what they do? It's because they're getting a paycheck. Some of them do it because they love it, but it's a job for them, right? So that's a benefit. They're getting paid to protect and serve.
They're just people like us.
They're just people, right?
Yeah.
Like what you're also saying is that tell me there's not, and I think by and large, 99.9%, a police officer comes in, I'm going to feel like I've got an ally, right? Especially if there's a problem going on, right? That police officer is going to run in, and firemen, military, they're going to run into a burning building and save the baby, right? That's the way I feel about law enforcement in general.
I wonder what percentage of time that's ever really happened.
Say running into a fire?
And saving a baby.
A lot.
I don't know.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I'm saying, but there are times though where officers do things that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I've seen it, and obviously, thankfully, because of technology, it's becoming more prevalent that you're seeing these videos of things that I disagree with. That doesn't paint the picture for all of police, and I don't go, well, all police nobody should have a weapon, because the criminals have a weapon. Like
it's kind of a crazy job if you think about it.
Yeah. So imagine being told, and I'm not defending any, because you got to look at each specific case, but imagine being a police officer and you're being attacked, and in a split second having to make a decision that could end somebody else's life, and then being judged afterwards.
Yeah, I have a buddy of mine the guy that's working with Stewart on the other thing I was telling you about. He's a cop, or he was a cop, and he was like, there's been times where we're in a pursuit, and I pull my gun, and then it's the kid running, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he doesn't shoot.
You saw the cop got shot in the face.
And then another,
right?
and then later on in that same pursuit, that guy shoots, and one of his buddies,
got killed. Yeah.
No, he doesn't get killed, but he loses a couple fingers, and it's like, I didn't kill the guy. So he's in that weird debate of like, shit.
And there's
what
going
do
to be
here?
for every example you see that goes one way, there's an example that doesn't end poorly or goes a different way, right? But there's one that's ringing in my head right now, which is an officer that said about, I think it was 11 or 12 times, stop, I'm going to shoot, stop, I'm going to shoot, and they're in a pursuit. And the gunman literally, so they say, why do you shoot people in the back? Literally, you see his back the whole way, right? He's running. And he turns his head and he shoots the officer in the face. Like that. I'm talking about split second. Right? Like, that's a problem, right? So, like, I'm going to tell you.
Well, I think one of the keys would be to have.
If you're going to commit crimes in general.
Well, that's not the issue, right? Like, if you're committing a crime and you get shot, hey, you got shot. It's
depending on the crime.
Well, there are people
depending on the crime, sure.
Yeah.
But there are people who don't have weapons, and
Well, see, how do you know that guy? You didn't know that guy had a weapon.
You don't know, but that's not my point. What I'm talking about, if we're talking about, where I grew up, people got beat up or harassed or whatever from the cops because of what they looked like and who they were.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's an issue, right? If we're
agreed.
talking about a regular situation where everybody's behaving regularly, then let's handle that in a regular way. But if we're talking about people being defenseless people being murdered by armed people, and I don't give a fuck who's doing what job. If you are defenseless and you're being murdered, that's an issue. And then if the person in the position of power
excessive force
that is supposed to protect you, and that's really where the conversation gets to at some point, right?
I would say I agree with those things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that owning a gun gives you the right to use it.
Absolutely.
I do have the right to defend myself. And
Absolutely.
here's the thing I will say on that recorded. If my life feels threatened or my wife or my children, I will use it as seen fit. And if I go to prison because of that, oh well.
Right.
Because
So-
the alternative is not acceptable to me personally, right? So if I'm a criminal, and I think criminals are like street credit, criminals that are through and through criminals, right? You should know if you don't want to get shot, don't do gangster shit, right? Like when I grew up rough, and it kind of one of those things like you want to be a gangster, be a gangster. Here's what it comes with, right? And gangsters, street people, criminals, whatever, they're extremely street smart. They may not be book smart, they're street smart. They're doing calculus on the side of the corner and don't even know it, right? But they're street smart. And
Miss Pat is an example of that, right? This comedian that I wrote on her show.
right.
She took those street smarts into her business and into her mindset
Probably
in
did
the
very
business
well.
of comedy and in the
Yeah.
business of show business and the business of creating a show. She sort of, you can see she still uses that mentality. The
Yeah,
street smarts.
and probably does very, very well.
She is.
So I mean, like I don't want kids getting murdered. I don't want people getting murdered. Matter of fact,
Obviously.
99%, 99.9. I don't know what the number is, but if
It's
you're
better than COVID, is what you're saying.
yeah, man. I think
I'll check these numbers at the open mic.
I think COVID is by and large the flu 2.0, and some countries have already said that.
There's there's an element of power involved in that for sure.
Yeah. So
There is a level of what can we get people to do.
yeah, but
By the way, if you pull your gun, are you shooting me? Or is there a chance still that I could be like, hey, okay, I give?
well, and if for me to pull it, you wouldn't have been doing that.
No. I mean, I'm just saying, like I know, don't get you
Yeah.
to the point where you're reaching.
Yeah.
If I have a gun and I have to pull it,
Well,
we're in the same
You're talking about
situation.
well, the
split seconds.
the training
Split
behind
seconds.
it. If you took a concealed carry course, they're going to teach you never pull your weapon unless you are going to use it.
Yeah, you're
That's
talking
the
about,
rule. Like
you're not fractions of a
You're
second.
not supposed to point a weapon at someone unless you intend 100% to use it.
All the stuff you see in the movies and the bullshit, like where people are like, they're pulling the gun and putting it in a guy's face and they're doing all this bull. That doesn't happen. Like
that actually has it. It happens a lot.
Let me rephrase that.
Happened to me.
Not with somebody that's trained.
Not with a
their gun.
responsible gun owner. And
No,
that's
they're
what I'm
not.
saying. The argument could be made that the
Make-
majority of
hey.
responsible gun owners are you.
Yeah.
Those are the responsible gun owners.
Make us take. I'm not. I think constitutionally you should be allowed to carry a gun. However, I'm going to differ, and some people in the NRA are going to disagree with this, but I'm going to differ. And I'm going to tell you, I'm perfectly fine with you saying we need to take a gun safety class,
a competency class.
a competency
something.
class,
Yeah.
a training class. I'm perfectly fine with the steps I had to go through to get a concealed carry permit, requiring that for gun ownership. I'm perfect, and I'm like I donate a ton of money to the NRA.
I think we just
And I'll gladly tell you that I would sign up for that all day long. And I know a lot of other people that would too, because I want gun owners to be responsible.
and that's some sort
So
of
stop giving the money to the NRA because they firmly stand against
well,
that
the
stuff.
problem is
And-
they
and-
stand against. It's again, it comes down to delivery. Like
But
the
any
other
reform,
side,
from the whole time they've been
the other
against.
side is not saying we want gun education. You see. That's,
No,
that's
there's
the
a
difference.
side. There is a far left that's saying, like in the sense of like a Martin Luther King and a Gandhi, we should have no violence, and any violence creates more
Sure.
violence, and blah blah blah. And there should be no gun. But those are also the same. For most people, fall in the middle of that, where it's like
I agree with you
know what I
completely,
mean?
but
Where-
the politics don't suggest that. I agree that most people are closer to the middle, but the people you see in the news are far left and far right.
no, there's not. There's. I think there is. The far right, we don't even.
What's
really
the one
see.
in Texas?
But the far left is
that
my whole
says we're
life.
gonna
There's
take
been a
your
left.
guns.
Like we don't know who Howard Zinn is. Nobody knows who Noam Chomsky. They know these people, but Bernie's kind of pretty far left, but the far left is no. They're not represented. Bernie is the example of, in my mind, a sort of sane middle ground left that's fighting the same fight for a long time.
Right.
Well, the
But
way I see
he's a minority. There's
So let me.
Obama was a Republican, for Christ's sakes.
So Joe Biden has said we want to take guns, right? Publicly, he's saying he's done it many times, right?
take guns, I think, is extreme.
So no, he said it. I mean, he's done it numerous times, but that's okay. The problem is, I've never once heard him say, "We want gun education. We want We want to encourage concealed carry classes, and we want to encourage responsible ownership through gun education. I've never once heard that.
Well, I think also one thing
And
you have to
not just from Joe, from anybody. So I think what you're saying is true, but I do think we're closer to the middle. But the political talking points, even if you're on the right's full of nothing but bullshit political talking points. So what happens is you end up with NRA, a polar opposite of what you see over here, and you never get into the middle until we get a centrist, until we get somebody that's willing to meet in the middle. And that's what you were talking about with The Rock earlier, that he had command enough respect of everybody that maybe he could have that conversation with both sides.
Yeah, I think with the gun issue, which is a very complex issue, by the way, is you have to consider just society as it is. I think the biggest things that would solve gun violence would be eliminating poverty.
And greed.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
jealousy and hatred.
power
depression.
is really the greed and power are like the same thing, but eliminating poverty, making the society better. A lot of the gun violence is based on poverty. Eliminating the drug war, which is also a big problem in our society.
The war on drugs.
The war on drugs, yeah. But as far as the purpose of the Second Amendment was to protect the First Amendment. That was the whole point. And I think as a society, we need to be aware that civilians, police, military, politicians, we're all the same. We're all members of the same society, and there's no difference between us. Because you have some title doesn't make you something different. You're not like a demigod or something special. A police officer is not any different than us. They're just they're
in a different position.
Yeah, they're just in a different position in society. But
and everybody's in a different position.
But really,
in society, really.
Yeah, and we're all the same. And the reason that it's good for us to be able to defend ourselves or have weapons is because there are people that want to use weapons against you. I don't like guns because I don't like any weapons. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea of people hurting other people. It's not a good thing. And if we can hopefully one day reach a level where that's not a thing, then this will be in a conversation. But as long as there are people out there that want to hurt you or harm you, it's good to have whatever tool you can to protect yourself and your family and whoever else. And I think a weapon, a firearm is just a tool. It's just like a chainsaw or a car or anything else. It's just a tool. And it's a very dangerous tool. It should be respected. And if you own one, I think you should have a high level of competency with that tool.
But that's where
that's
one of the issue comes in,
yeah.
right? It's keeping guns out of certain people's hands, right?
For sure.
If
mental illness or irresponsibility or. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I knew a guy.
Sure, but then that can be skewed as well to keep it out of particular groups of people.
Right. Yeah. So it's dangerous.
He won't take a vaccine.
Well, that's why.
Ill.
Well, that's why you need. That's why you need to have.
That's coming.
That's why you need to have some type of competency test or something to.
Yeah. So where were you with?
There's 70 million people with guns that are going to take out the 80 million people without them if things go too far. Right. That's the reality. Like you can't force things on people. It's got to be done in a way where it's delivery.
And also with gun violence in schools and stuff like that, I mean, I think that's active shooters is kind of a current phenomenon. It's a newer thing that we're experiencing in society, and I don't know if we know exactly what's causing it. I think the solution to that is having more security at schools. I think the main like something we can do today without a question is you have multiple armed.
That's an issue.
Plainclothes.
I agree.
Officers at schools.
Historically,
in
this country,
why don't we just do schools and prisons then? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Historically,
it's true though. Like if you have protectors at a school is a soft target. No one there is able to protect themselves against someone with a weapon.
Sure, but here's an issue, right? When we talk about
my daughter's school has 5 officers there all the time. They're plainclothes.
I tell my son, be nice to the weirdo kid that everybody makes fun of. Mm-hmm. That way, when he goes nuts,
stop making fun of the guy.
I brought a gun to school when I was a kid. When I was in high school, brought a gun to school.
Me too.
Yeah. should
I didn't
not
do
have.
it. I didn't do it to shoot other people. I did it because I believe in carrying a gun.
Gotcha. I did it because I thought it was I thought it was going to get the shit beat out of me again. You know what I mean? And I had my baby's first starter pistol. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And the issue with schools should be safe, and it's a ridiculous thing that I have to say that out loud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it is the case. The problem we get into, though, is if we're going to talk about having armed security guards at all schools, there are certain schools with certain groups of people who have been oppressed with people who have weapons around them, right? And so that's where we get into it has to be fair and equal. In we were talking earlier about gun control, or your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on the regulations? Now, he's saying there should be some sort of competency test, which isn't really a stance that we hear in the news all the time, right? The NRA is not saying, "Hey, we gotta test people to make sure they're competent to have guns."
Right.
That's not what they're saying. But you just said that as a responsible gun owner,
Yeah.
And so
Well,
that
you're
is
actually donating to stop that from happening.
No. I'm donating because if I don't, the other side is trying to take the responsible gun ownership from me.
No, they want what you're talking about. But
They're not saying that though.
Okay. I guess
that's the problem.
fair. But I don't think I think they are.
have your-
and
have-
I think
have
what
that
you're
party
being told
say
is
it.
they want your guns.
No, I'm hearing it. I'm not being told it. I'm hearing it. Like
I'm only hearing it from.
we can find clip after clip after clip of various politicians, including Biden, saying that we're going to take your gun. I'm literally clear. Not a political talking point, by the way.
Right.
I would vote for a Democrat. There's a few that I would have voted for.
Kucinich?
Maybe. No.
I like Tulsi Gabbard a lot.
I liked Tulsi okay, but what about what's his name?
Andrew
Andrew
Yang.
Yang. I like the
I like
Yang.
him.
I like the Yang Gang span. I don't agree with all this stuff, but I like
Actually,
him.
Andrew Yang
Right.
is starting a new party, supposedly.
It's not going to work, but
I don't think so either. But
You know.
it's
maybe.
been tried
I don't
multiple
know.
times, right?
Yeah.
All of Tom's guys have tried to start a new party.
I
and
like
it's
to-
never worked
Yes.
once.
I liked Obama.
Were you a Perot guy?
I
He had some
kind of
good
was. I
points.
think I was because I was
Yeah.
he was on the outside, and
Yeah.
I've never really been like specifically a Democrat.
You're
or
just a
thing.
contrarian. You
Yeah.
you don't like anybody who does anything.
I think we're doing it all wrong, and we're following greed.
What can
and
we
blah,
do
blah, blah,
right?
And then we.
What? So all right, this is a thing I like to talk about because Neil has these ideas in his head about how the world should be, and I agree with him 100%. And my question at the end of all these conversations is, what's the first step that we can do, right? Like, what's the thing that we can actually implement to create and affect change? So when you say, whatever pie in the sky idea you have about we're doing it all wrong, what's the thing tomorrow morning, the 6 people in this room, we can wake up to affect change? What can we actually do?
This.
Meditate.
Yeah, that's right.
I like meditate. By the way, I like that answer. Change your state.
It's from
It's a mindset.
from my mindset of from where I sort of get my inspirations from is that same thing. You change the world by changing yourself, and it starts with you. The war we see in the world is the same as the war that's with us.
Yeah,
the
be
violence
self-aware.
we see in the world around us is the violence that we have in our own country and in our own lives and in our own families.
I agree with all that.
So you
Introspection.
have, yes. So it has
Yeah.
to start, and like I say, I'm a nonviolence guy. So to me, they preach that same thing. Like it has to be in every core of you to start to go out, and everything we do to participate on the side of violence or the side of these other things creates more of it. So that's what we can do, and as individuals, we can be vigilant in being those in our thoughts and our minds and our ideas. And I don't achieve that, but
Strive towards it.
yes, that's what you have to.
Guru
Sadhguru?
Sadhguru, that one.
Yeah.
Very similar. I actually agree with that. Until we get to that point, though, I've become less and less violent, but I still have my gun just in case.
Right.
Well, it's the thing Neil said a while back to me. He said, locks just keep, what is it?
Yeah.
Locks they keep honest people honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you have a lock on your door at your house, that's
Yeah.
not, if I want to get
It
in, that's
doesn't
not
stop
keeping
a
me.
criminal.
Mostly it annoys
But
me.
I think also
Yeah.
Because I'll have some shit in my hand and I'll be like, which key? Jesus. I can't believe we locked the door when you're sitting right there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
nobody's breaking in our house. My mother-in-law comes over. She locks her car in my driveway and like
Yeah, but
comes in and locks the door.
she's
Like,
not
what are you
wrong.
doing?
Here's the thing I've been
might-
talking about a bit lately is I'm at this. I was staying at this hotel, and I just kept I didn't want anybody to come in. Right. I made it a big deal at the check-in. I was like, I don't need any room service. I don't want anybody in my room for any reason. I'm OCD. I don't want anybody in my room. And they were like, that's fine, not a problem. And the person I was with, I was saying, hey, I don't want anybody in the room. She's like, you're acting crazy. That's your OCD. That's your
crazy.
anxiety. And then I go up. I swear to God, I'm not in that room for 10 minutes. I'm taking a shit with the bathroom door open, and somebody comes fucking walking in. And I'm like, at what point does my fucking anxiety stop being anxiety
Yeah.
and just be? Is it still anxiety if I'm right every single fucking time?
Who walked in?
One of the hotel people.
Why?
You tell me, Tom.
Yeah.
Like
They shouldn't have, but they
5
do.
weeks ago. 5 weeks ago, I had a leak in my bathroom. It was drip, 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 drip,
Oh,
drip, drip.
yeah.
And I was like, I gotta move all of my shit out of my closet. I got all my fucking collectibles, and I gotta move all this stuff. And Jenny Senso, she was like, "You're being crazy. Nothing's gonna happen." And 2 weeks later, they fucking flooded my apartment. And when I was like, "Hey, I gotta move all my Pokemon cards," she was like, "That's a fucking weird type of anxiety." And I was like, "It's not, because it fucking happened." And so,
Who'd you listen to, her or yourself?
I moved a lot of my shit.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like your mother-in-law fucking having to lock everything up. She only has to be wrong once to really fuck her life up. You know what I mean?
I worked with this comic. I don't know if you know Paul Hooper.
Yeah,
Right?
fucking love Paul.
He has. I know you do. I don't know if these guys, but he
Not
has.
ringing bells.
I'll
he's-
introduce
He's
you.
hilarious in that he's just a wonderful, hilarious.
We
human.
travel well together because
Right.
he's a little more OCD than I am,
Yeah,
which I
like
love.
he's gone through door handles on cars. And,
It
you know
takes
what I
us 10 minutes to leave a hotel if we're together because we both got to walk back and check the door. I swear to God.
Yes. Yes. And I would do stuff like, because if he sees like a piece of paper on the ground, he thinks, does that have
Is
my
that
social
mine?
security number
Yeah.
on it? Blah, blah, blah. So, I'll leave stuff on the stage so that I know it's in his head when he's up there. And then, so you just, I'd give him shit about it the whole trip in Japan. And then we get to the fucking airport, and the guy drops us off, and we get out and go in, and I'm going through security. I'm like, I fucking left my phone in the van, like in Japan. There's no getting this back, And he's like, well, just get the paperwork and call the guy. And I had thrown out my paperwork in the hotel because I was like, I'm done with this. Don't need the itinerary, anybody's number anymore.
Oh.
And Paul's like, I got it right here. He has the guy's number. He calls.
Yeah.
He gets me my phone back. And it's like, without that, I was screwed. So then it's like you said,
So-
that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what anxiety is for a lot of people. It's protecting yourself from, it's not that I think the world is going to fuck me every minute. It's that the one time that something bad's going to happen, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the one time.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago. It's when you worry about the anxiety about things is I don't want to deal with the heartbreak that'll come from the one time that it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Paul
I-
doesn't want to lose his fucking cell phone once. 'cause
And I
that
think
would be a
it's
nightmare.
helped. It's because of that. Now I check more. And then the last time when I finished writing in Atlanta, I'd lived in that apartment for 3 months or whatever. And I was getting all my stuff, and I made all my trips down, and I wandered around the place a couple times, like, all right, I'm forgetting something. And I had that weird anxiety of like, go back up and check again. And I did. And then I leave again. I'm like, you still got to check. You're missing. And I was just like, this is stupid. I'm not doing that. And then I get home and I'm like, I left a picture of my wife in
Yep.
a mirror that I'd had up, and I left
Yeah.
another thing, like some
Checking out of a
container, and it's
hotel
like,
is
damn
a
it, I
nightmare.
could
for
have
me.
gone back and searched again, and I should have. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, have you guys ever had a coffee pot that doesn't automatically shut off? I've gone through weekends of like stress and pain with
Yes.
that. Like, oh my God, is the
Yeah.
school on fire? You know,
Right,
that kind of stuff.
Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If so, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.